Hey there, Pyromaniacs. For the last 2 days, I have been doing absolutely nothing but play the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion Remaster. People have already started calling this the worst kept secret in gaming, and honestly, yeah, that sounds about right, considering the first time we heard about this thing was from documents that were leaked during the Activision and Microsoft FTC case. So for the longest time, the question was, is this still a thing, or was this something that was briefly being worked on just a few years ago? Because those documents were already super dated by the time that they were leaked. But as time went on, more and more information kept making its way out to the public. So much information, in fact, that I kinda stopped believing it at a certain point, and kinda just started to assume that this whole thing was just some big elaborate hoax. But as it turns out, it is real, it is here, and it shadow dropped the same week as Expedition 33, which is just such great news for that game. But hey, how can I complain about 2 cool-looking RPGs releasing in 1 week? Except for the fact that I already have a massive backlog of RPGs as it is. I'm sure I'll probably get around to playing the Persona games someday. Maybe. What's kind of funny is just last month I actually just on a whim splurged on a Game Pass Ultimate subscription. So I was actually able to give this game a try before actually committing to, buying it. That being said, because of that, most of the footage you're gonna see in this video was recorded with the cloud version, which means that visually it's not the best representation of this remaster. That being said, I've really been enjoying my time with this thing. As far as the main questline is concerned, I haven't actually played too much of it so far. I've really only gotten up to Cloud Ruler Temple so far, which for people who have played the game before, you know that that's not really that far into the main quest at all. But it is the point of the game where the story really gets going. Like you just met Martin Septim, you just closed your first Oblivion gate. So at the very least, I played enough of the main quest line to kind of get the gist of this version of the game. Honestly, most of my playtime hasn't been with the main story, but has instead just been wandering the world, exploring the different cities, and just kind of marveling at just how much of a graphical upgrade this really is. Like, at least as far as the scenery is concerned, and especially within the cities, this is just a higher poly version of Oblivion. Like, it looks like the original game, but just better. As far as the characters are concerned, though, your mileage may vary. The major players in the main questline look great. I thought it was really cool that they made Uriel Septim look a little bit more like Patrick Stewart, and they made Martin look like kind of a fusion of Sean Bean and Viggo Mortensen. So it's like looking at the love child of Boromir and Aragorn. I'm sure there's fan art of that out there somewhere. That being said, a lot of the less essential NPCs can have a bit more of an uncanny valley look to them, which, honestly, depending on how you look at it, is still very accurate to the original game. The super ugly character models in the original game have kind of become part of the game's charm. So the fact that you can still stumble upon NPCs that look like inbred potatoes, honestly just kinda makes it feel more like Oblivion. And honestly, I think that's the coolest part about this remaster, is that despite this being a massive graphical overhaul, they still made it a point to try and retain that quirky atmosphere that made the original such a classic. Despite the fact that this remaster was made by a third party, it still distinctly feels like a Bethesda game, warts and all. And the reason for that is because it's still technically running on the Creation Engine. I don't fully understand exactly how it's being done, but essentially you have the original Gamebryo-made Oblivion running in the background, while the graphics are being done by Unreal 5. But this isn't just a graphical overhaul. They've also tried to do certain things to modernize the gameplay. And when I first heard that they were gonna try to modernize Oblivion's gameplay, I was rightfully terrified. But I think they managed to strike a pretty healthy balance of making the game feel modern while still feeling like the original game. It really just feels like a more refined version of the original game. The original Oblivion's combat had an issue with visual feedback, where you could be hitting an enemy and it just doesn't feel like you're actually doing any damage. A lot of the times you just find yourself just kind of whacking away until eventually they fall down. But in the remaster, they actually react to your hits. they'll flinch, they'll recoil, they'll kind of try to dodge out of the way of attacks. All in all, this is quite possibly the definitive version of Oblivion, which feels insane to say. But more than anything, what really baffles me is the fact that everything is here. I've started to see this trend of remasters, where studios will release a high-profile remaster of a popular beloved game, but only release the base game, as a way to double dip on DLC that came out years ago. We saw this with the Modern Warfare remaster, Persona 3 Reload, and the craziest one to me is the HD remaster of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which made its multiplayer battle mode a separate purchase that you had to buy as DLC. But in Oblivion Remastered, everything is here. Not just the big expansions like Knights of the Nine and Shivering Isles, but also the smaller DLCs like the Mage's Tower and the Vile Lair. This is the complete package. And now we're starting to get rumblings of Virtuous potentially making a remaster of Fallout 3. And as someone who doesn't particularly like Fallout 3 all that much, I would definitely be interested in the remaster because I think that there's a lot of stuff in that game that a remaster could fix. Specifically combat. I'm not a huge fan of how bullet spongy the enemies are, and the guns just don't feel good to use. What I personally want more than a Fallout 3 remaster is honestly a remaster of an Elder Scrolls game that not a lot of people know exists, that being the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, which was a slightly more action-focused spin-off that came out in between Daggerfall and Morrowind. And the reason why I would want a remaster of Redguard is because it's kind of unplayable on modern hardware. Like, you can technically play it, but the performance is abysmal. It's just not a super well optimized game. But Redguard is also a really important game when it comes to the history of Elder Scrolls as a franchise. It was the first one to really solidify Elder Scrolls lore as we know it today, and essentially acted as a sort of reboot of the canon. It was also the first Elder Scrolls game to be directed by Todd Howard. Redguard is just such a significant game that it's kind of a crime that it's not really playable on modern hardware, so a remaster just kinda makes sense. That being said, just in general, just hats off to Virtuous, and I really hope to see more remasters in this style from them, because my imagination really is just running rampant with what types of games I would want to see redone in this style. As someone who's also a huge fan of the Fable games, my mind immediately goes to Fable. I would sell my soul for a Fable 2 remaster that looks this good. I'm just saying. But yeah, to cap it all off, I'm definitely gonna keep playing this game, and this is definitely gonna be enough to hold me over until Elder Scrolls 6, or at the very least, until Sky Oblivion comes out. Which, on a side note, I was definitely worried that because of this remaster, Bethesda was gonna send a cease and desist to the creators of Sky Oblivion, but instead, apparently they actually sent all the creators free download codes. So that means, if all things go to plan for the Sky Oblivion team, we could potentially get 2 Oblivion remakes in 1 year. One official and one made by fans. But yeah, now this video is starting to get more and more unstructured as I go on, so I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. This is just a cool surprise that I wasn't expecting, and once again, I'm really enjoying my time with it. It is a faithful remaster of one of the greatest RPGs ever made. They somehow managed to capture lightning in a bottle. But yeah, I've been trying to close out this video for the past, 4 minutes, and I keep coming up with new things to say, so with all that said, thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.